Now is the time we jump to Lightspeed. I'm Faith and I'm here with Jrod and his Dudeness. This is the week that year 2 of SWU starts as we head into the pre-release for Jump to Lightspeed this Friday. We got a bunch of spoilers this week. So Jrod, which spoilers stood out the most to you that we got as we ended the preview season?
Honestly, I feel like a lot of the spoilers we got this week were solid, like draft filler, stuff like that. I didn't see anything that really stuck out to me. I guess the Starhawk is kind of cool, solely because it cuts everything in half. So, like, I'd like to have a double hero green deck with the Starhawk and then play Endless Legions off of it and then be able to, like, kill my opponent with that a lot quicker. Like, kind of like my Palpatine vision, but like heroism instead.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit harder because you don't have Barrage, obviously. I mean, you play it, but it's obviously going to cost 7. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see something like that, or what kind of combos come with the Starhawk. Like if there's a way to cheat out the Starhawk, that would be kind of cool. But I guess that's kind of like the one card that really was like, oh, this is cool and interesting and different, you know?
Dudeness, what about yourself? What any of these cards that stood out to you?
We did get the Unity of Purpose, a 6-cost double green legendary event that says for each friendly unit with a different name, give each unit you control +1/+1 for this phase. This is the definition of a win more card. And if you get a lot of value out of this card when you cast it, you were probably going to win anyways.
Isn't it just like a worse attack pattern delta, basically?
Yeah, and it's here, and check it out. It's legendary. So another card that will spark the opposite of joy if I open it in a pack.
I will say the good news that it's legendary and bad is that means like they're not making cards that are good for Premier in the legendary slot. So they're just like, oh, here's these like $40 cards, right? Like, so I'm not against that. And I think this set has actually a bunch of good rares. And I think the rares are actually better than the legendaries, other than like a handful of legendaries. There's like 2 or 3, like Han, Devastator, and Planetary Bombardment, like the 3 that like off the top of my head that are good. But like past that, like I think the rares are where the set's at, which I think is good for people on a budget that want to play decks. Like you'll be able to get them relatively cheaply. It might be like $5-ish or something like that for one of them, but it's like $15 for a playset. I think that's actually not the worst thing.
I want to talk about one of those rares. 2-cost Vigilance in the heat of battle. This is a disaster. Each unit gains Sentinel and loses Saboteur for this phase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to talk about this because it's kind of an interesting thing. One, as we talked about last week, if you lose an ability, you cannot gain it for the rest of the phase. So even if you play an upgrade that gives you, like Breaking In, which gives you +2/+0 and Saboteur, if you lost it with this card, you can't gain it. So kind of what I'm thinking about this, though, how this could be interesting, is if your opponent is like guarding one of their units because they have a Sentinel blocking it and you want to get to it, by playing this card, you give all their units Sentinel as well. It doesn't just give your unit Sentinel. And so it does let you get around their Sentinel, like at least hit their units that their Sentinel is protecting. Kind of an interesting, weird, I don't think you're going to use it very often, but kind of a potential neat play, I think.
Yeah, it can definitely be interesting. I think it'll definitely be interesting and like pre-release. It could definitely have some effects, of course, and some abilities. Like I could see someone trying to protect their ship with Chewbacca, right, with the Sentinel. Like, so you have a Sentinel and you have another ship, and you Chewbacca up the other ship that's not Sentinel, and then you're like, oh man, the Chewbacca's going to keep whacking me. I can't get around the Sentinel. How am I going to deal with that? And you play this card, and then your units can just attack Chewbacca and move on with your day. Feel a bit better about it.
So I think Jrod said a lot of the cards that we did get to end were common and uncommon in that draft potential. Were there any cards that stood out to you guys that you think would be valuable in limited? I think one of the things for me that I found interesting was seeing some of the rarity. Particularly, we got our first rarity shifted card, and it was a card that I thought we were going to get in this set, and I was right. It is Prepare for Takeoff, and that we got, it was an uncommon in set 1 that is now an common. And it's a card that lets you search your top 8 cards of your deck, and then if you can get 2 vehicles from there. So it works really well in this set, but I think that'll be a strong card, just give you card advantage. Especially in limited, 8 cards is a large part of your deck.
Yeah, I think one card that I'd be happy to open that's not a rare or legendary, just for like my pool, would be the Resistance Blue Squadron. It's a 4-cost command heroism ground unit, a space unit, excuse me. 3/4 resistance vehicle fighter. When played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of friendly space units. And anyone who's new to limited or to pre-release events, removal is going to be very hard to find. So your units are typically going to stay on the board a bit more. So if you are going wide strategy, you'll likely have a couple of ships, like 2 or 3, and you can play this to kind of ping a ship off and really turn the momentum of the fight with that ship. So if you see that, definitely put that as like a gotta get this in my deck somehow. I wouldn't pay 6 for it, but I would definitely, if I can be in green for that, I would definitely do my best.
Dudeness, you're probably our biggest limited stan. From your perspective, anything you see that's like really good?
I kind of like Fly Casual. It's an uncommon 1-cost yellow hero event that simply says ready a vehicle unit. It can attack bases for this phase. This is a great way to help deal with your opponent's board. You can even cast this on a unit you just played this phase and ready it up. You can ready up your unit that has a pilot on it to also whack on their stuff. It seems like you just said there's not a lot of removal, and this kind of acts as a pseudo removal with your units. So I think this could be pretty good and limited.
I think for me, Focus Fire stands out as a potential card, and that is a 4-cost command event. That is, choose a unit. Each friendly vehicle unit in the same arena deals damage equal to its power to that unit. Now, this is not great in Premiere, but in my mind, removal is always something that is pretty strong, especially in Limited. And I love things that you're getting to use multiple things to take down their big card. They're probably only going to have 1 or 2 really, really good cards. This set in particular is going to focus a lot on space. And for anyone that's been doing some either like thinking or have had a chance to like print out cards and play test, when leaders pilot onto ships, it makes that ship quite a strong unit. So if you can use your smaller ships to combine and take out their leader with this card, you are feeling very happy.
Yeah, I think this set overall is going to really change the dynamics of things. Like I still think that I'm not saying Sabine's like going out of the meta, but I think she's going to have to potentially shift a little bit because her ECL plays that she relied on, like Wrecker and Poe, are kind of hard to do when you don't have ground units on the other side. If everyone's in space, you can't ECL those units; they have to just play them out, which could still be fine, but it's not obviously as good as being able to ECL them. So we'll see how the dynamics play out and how things maybe shift a little bit away from being so ground heavy to having maybe a bit more balance to it. And who knows? I mean, with Poe or Luke being as good as they are, or even Kaz, maybe Sabine just isn't, the heroism leader that everyone loves like she's been. So she actually has some competition now. So we'll see what shakes out. Again, nothing's solidified yet, but I think it's really cool how this set definitely kind of like changes how the game's played or at least thought about.
I think another thing is the fact that we're now getting, especially this set focusing on space. So we're going to get a majority of the units in this set are space. We can really now see some pretty fleshed out, I think, space only decks, which I know Dudeness has been wanting for a while. But, well, maybe not every card is ultra banger. Every card, you should be able to at least have enough of the mid-tier cards that if you want to, you can just totally ignore the ground arena or have like events to deal with the ground arena.
Yeah, it makes you think what next set's going to be and how interesting that is. Like, I already can't wait to just see what that is because of how much this set is going to change things. Like, so I'm really curious to see what kind of spice they have for set 2 this year. It is set 5, but set 2 this year.
Another card that this is not for limited per se. This is a rare card, but I am interested to see if Lightspeed Assault will ever catch on. That is a 2-cost command event. Defeat a friendly space unit and deal damage equal to its power to an enemy space unit. If you do, deal indirect damage equal to the enemy unit's power to its controller. So I know I had to read that just twice or 3 times to kind of understand what it's meaning, but if I've got a A-Wing, I can sacrifice my A-Wing, deal damage to one of their units. Say they have a Devastator, the new Devastator, which is a 9/6. So I sacrifice my A-Wing. Now it deals 1 damage to their Devastator, because my A-Wing had 1 power, but then they have to deal 9. They get dealt 9 indirect damage, because that's the Devastator's power. So I think that's an interesting way of, like, if you're playing some kind of all-in deck, or you've got them to a low point in their life, you now, if they have their big ship, even like the set 1 Devastator, which is a 10/10, which isn't totally unreasonable for them to play, this gives you some kind of play to maybe get back in the game.
And if you happen to have your own Devastator out for reasons, you get to choose where all the indirect damage goes.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point. And this is a non-aligned card, so you can play it in either hero or in villainy.
Yeah, single aspect command.
Mhm.
Card definitely seems interesting as like a finisher potentially, right?
Mhm. Another card that I think is an interesting finisher card is this. I think the best art in the set is Face Off, a 3-cost aggression tactic. If no player has taken the initiative this phase, you may ready an enemy unit. If you do, ready a friendly unit in the same arena. So I just think this is really cool. A couple things though about this. In Twin Suns, it is interesting that it's no player, so it's not just 2 players that you're choosing. No one could have done it. But if you can also make yourself and another person both kind of ready, and you can both target someone else. In Premiere, this I think is like what you're going to want to do with this is ideally they have their low cost unit that you're readying up, and then in return you get to ready up your leader or something huge that gets to attack.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think. Good.
I'm dubious on how good that's going to be. Now, you get to choose what you're ready for your opponent. So if they have like some stupid TIE fighter token, obviously that's what you're going to choose every time.
hmm
So it's very situational depending on what the board state actually is.
So this is when you need a card that can that can put something on their board, like Jesse from set 3, where you give them droid tokens,
Okay,
do something like that, and then you give them the unit to ready up, and then you ready up your big leader or something.
it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like if you're playing against like a Vader or something like that, oh hey, ready one of your little token boys. I'm gonna ready my Devastator.
Yeah,
You know, so it's definitely an interesting card, and it costs 3, which is relatively cheap for that kind of effect. So if you can set it up to where obviously attack means more for you than them, it would definitely be ideal. And I feel like you would need to be like they might not have to. They can't be claimed. They can't have the initiative, but if they have like if they're tapped out, they have no more resources. That would be the key for when you want to make this play here.
yeah, exactly that. That you guys could choose. And just thinking of some of the other 3-cost readies, we've got Keep Fighting, which lets you do one with 3 or less power, and the Culligan's Turn, which lets you ready a fighter or transport with
Mhm.
6 or less power. So those are both costing 3. This also costs 3 and lets you ready anything as long as they have a unit in the same arena. That's the part I think is interesting.
Right.
I
Any
want to point out, keep fighting costs 2.
Keep Fighting costs 2. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's
There's
a
also
3 or less power.
there's also Bravado that costs 5 on card value, but costs 3 if you defeat something.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
again, you have to kill something, so it's interesting.
They each have their restrictions. Any final cards to speak out to you guys from these, or that you wanted to highlight this latest and final dump that we got of cards?
I like the Dornian gunship. This is a 5-cost command space unit. It's a 4/6 rebel capital ship. That says, when played, deal indirect damage to a player equal to the number of vehicle units you control. So this is a payoff card for just going all vehicles. It's also a payoff card if you're trying to do indirect synergies, because there's a lot of other cards that synergize off of damaged units or something like that.
Yeah, and some pretty interesting art on this too. They
That's
just
have
look
cool
pretty
art,
epic.
yes. But this is a nice way, like I said, to get a nice payoff, a little bit of a signpost uncommon for the indirect or vehicle synergy.
Do you want to speak a little about that idea of a signpost uncommon? Like, how players might identify one of those?
That's a good question. So they're basically uncommons that are usually highly synergistic, and they are basically the payoff cards if you go heavy into the synergy. Pretty much for MTG, all of the different color combinations usually have one signpost uncommon in those color pairs that really showcases what those synergies can potentially do.
We
And what's one of the just if you can briefly, why are they at uncommon versus common? Like, what are we going to see difference in those two rarities? This is going to matter for limited.
Yeah, for limited, because they usually have really strong effects, and so you put it at uncommon so that they are, in fact, less common than the other cards. Because if your deck was full of them, it could be really powerful. Like the best drafted Magic of the Gathering decks that I've gotten are the ones that have like maybe 3 of these signposts uncommon somehow, and they're usually pretty nutty.
Thanks for letting us know that. Yeah, so it's something to keep track of. Again, in Premier, rarities aren't going to matter, but in Limited, they will matter just because that's how often you're going to see the card.
So
Jrod, any final cards for you?
Yeah, I got one more. And this one I'm pointing out mostly because when they first announced the Space and Ground, they said that they pulled back the Space Arena a bit, like it's a little bit less powerful. So I'm gonna call into effect here the MC-30 Assault Frigate, 5 cost command space unit, 5/5 Rebel vehicle capital ship with Overwhelm and Raid 1. So it's effectively a 6/5 when it attacks for 5, which is at a common's pretty good. But the fact that it's a capital ship and means that Piet can get it out for 4, and this thing's a 5/5 is like pretty massive because I don't think there's any ships at that cost that can really compete with this thing. So to me, then it feels like because if that was a ground unit, now granted you have to have a specific leader to get it out. I understand that, but if you're playing Piet and you're playing this card, like I don't know, like this is like an auto include. I feel like in that deck because
Well,
go ahead.
sorry. I was just thinking like, not that obviously, like Wrecker has other abilities, so I'm not trying to compare it directly to Wrecker. But for being a common and being 5 cost and only having 1 aspect, it's like it's still having overwhelming and red 1, so it's still attacking for 6 overwhelm.
Yeah.
Even for 5, that's still a lot.
And like technically with Piet, you get to go turn 4 this, turn 5 barrage for 7, which is like absolutely just going to wipe the board with like aggro mid range deck. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to pan out. Like I already think Piet's going to be pretty good. Once people kind of figure out where to go, he's going to be like a very good mid range deck. So he might be something that I end up playing, to be honest. But we'll see how good it is. But yeah, I mean this card just seems like really powerful. And I'm not mad about it, but it's just interesting that they said they like tuned down the space compared to the ground stuff, and now like this space unit, I'm like, is it really tuned down? Like some of the other stuff, I agree. Like the big end game ships have all been tuned down, and they're pretty poor, in my opinion. But like this thing's really good. And I'm like, who made this card? Because this card's like real good. You should be working on the big ships because like I don't know, I think it's the one thing this game so far from like as a constructive criticism, the big cool cards that everyone would like if they were good have not been good. Like if you think about it, like other than like Vader and Luke from set 1, what like named characters that like are beloved have been like the best cards? And I get it's only year 1, but like if we're playing Star Wars, like if I see a Darth Vader, I want it to be good. I expect it to be good. You know what I mean? And I think like the Darth Vader from this set, I think he's fine, but I don't think he's that good. Like
Yeah,
he's
I
not.
think fine's a good way to describe him.
Yeah. So like to me, it's a letdown. It's like why is Darth Vader fine? Right? Like Luke Skywalker unit is good. He's actually probably one of the better cards in the set. So that's okay. Like the Lukes have been good, but there's like so many other cards like Boba Fett units, like all these like prominent characters. Ahsoka, for example, like the yellow one in set in this set in the 3/5 for 4. I think she's actually pretty solid. But man, like I don't know, like make the named characters that people want to play with good. That's all I'm asking. Like and you can make the lesser known characters less good and make them the draft fodder or whatever. Like I feel like that's something that is missing here, and make the big ships good too, man, because they're fun. If you get to 11, make it like a game winning effect, not something silly like making a bunch of TIE fighters. Because what is that going to do? I'm like if I'm winning with the TIE fighters, I'm winning more. Like I've already won the game. I've played 12 for a ship. I don't know. It just those are the kind of things that uh, I'm a little displeased with in this set. The big ships aren't that good. Most of
I think that's fair, but I will say from the experience I have with Piet so far, big ships, you get them out just a lot faster, and they can be really strong.
yeah,
Not
but
that I think it's any of these big ships. The Devastator, the new
yeah,
Devastator is pretty good.
that's the only one that's good. Like I said at the beginning, but what I'm saying
Yeah,
is, but that's his ship, so it was meant to go with him. Like that was designed to be with Piet, of course, right?
yeah.
So that makes sense. It's solid, but then like you're capping out at the 10 cost 10/10. That's like the best ship you're playing, right? Because it's going to cost 8.
The other Devastator.
Yeah, the other Devastator. So like, okay, but that wasn't in the set. Like, why isn't like the top end like what? This is a space set. Why is the best space unit to end the game with not in this set?
Yeah.
That's just, you know what I mean. To me, it makes sense. Like when we did Twilight last set. Why didn't we have an Anakin that was dope? Why didn't we
Or an
have
Obi-Wan that was a
or an
dope.
Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon or Yoda or a Chancellor unit that was good? Like we had a cool leader, but the unit was pretty medium and bad. Um, you know, a Django unit that's like awesome. I don't know. The Django leader obviously was very good. I know. I don't know if they like if it's a good leader, we can't have a good unit in the same like the same set or something. I don't know what the rules are there, but
We had Luke and Vader in set 1.
but their leaders weren't very good.
Yeah, that's true.
They were okay. Well,
They
Vader
were
was
okay.
okay. Vader was okay. Luke was medium. He was around, but not really that good. So it's tough to say. It's just it's been a bit of a miss for me overall. If I could give the team a little feedback on that, it's just make the known fan favorite units good. Just make them good.
Yeah,
that's all I'm asking.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that.
Sorry,
I did want to just point out one final unit that we don't have an English version for as of the time of recording, which is March 1st, but a little translation on the old internets has we have a new Admiral Yularen, 3-cost Vigilance Heroism, 1/5, Republic official, and it's got an interesting effect. When played, choose Grit, Restore 1, Sentinel, or Shield. While this unit is in play, each friendly vehicle unit gains the chosen keyword. So kind of fun to have a way to, when you're thinking, which of those abilities do I want to give all my other units that are vehicles? So cards like this can be interesting, I find. If you choose something that's going to be too good for you, your opponent's definitely just going to focus all the energy on taking out Yularen. Interesting that Ambush was not one of the ones that you can give your units.
I'm pretty happy Ambush wasn't one of them. I think it'd be a little too good. But this guy, you know where I think he's going to be good?
Where is that?
Twin Sons.
Yeah.
Because he's a official, which sometimes matters, and Republic matters a lot. So I think that's kind of cool that he's a Republic leader. Because I don't think he was Republic last time, was he? You'll learn. Maybe he was. Maybe he was definitely
Yeah,
Republic.
he was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah, so just some other thoughts to come. But we did get other news this week as well, besides finishing off the rest of the cards. Was we and I'm sorry, what do I want to say? I'm kind of glad they gave us all these kind of commons and uncommons in a big batch. Nothing worse than like you're waiting for the spoiler of the day and it's like a junk common or uncommon. And you need those cards in the set, especially that helps really make limited exciting and playable. But I just hate waiting my whole week and then that's the card I get. So I'm glad that they kind of give these all in one big bunch, and some of them will be relevant for some trait maybe at one point, but again, overall, I'm happy with that. But we did find out about some of the cards in the OP packs, and we got interesting news. There will now be a legendary in the OP pack. We saw the art for Han Solo, the one from this set, which is a 4/5 that you can pilot as a 2/3. It's got some other effects. What do you guys think about that? The fact that we're going to have a legendary in OP packs.
I think it's great. Also think it's great that the legendary they chose isn't booty cheek.
So I think that they did that because of the Spotlight deck. So it will allow people to purchase the Spotlight deck to play at their local and have an opportunity to open a free pack that they earn for just showing up and have get a good card that would drastically upgrade their deck.
That's super relevant.
Yeah, I think if FFG people are very smart, so I imagine that was their thought process. If not, then just you can claim my idea and you can just use that and say that was your idea, and I think everyone will be happy.
They say how many cards are going to be in these packs? Because Han Solo is number 37.
I don't know offhand. They said there was more, I think, this time though.
And there would have to be at least 37, right? Because before there was 19 or 20 or something.
Yeah, there was 20. I would imagine there's 37. I'd imagine he's the last.
And they had like their own rarities, right? Like you had rares that were just uncommons from the set, but they were quote unquote rare in the pack. But these cards that we've seen have their original rarity from the set. Because we see a Fett's Fire Spray that has the S symbol, and the Red 5 and the Onyx Squadron are both uncommon and common, respectively.
Yes,
So
and this is an
I imagine
alternate,
we get more than one legendary.
and this is an alternate fire spray art, right?
Yes, it's in the OP border. It's not hyperspace
Yeah,
because now hyperspace starter or special cards will be
in the booster packs.
actually in the packs themselves now.
And if you want to see that play out, you can check out our video where FFG graciously sent us uh, a kit where we can show you some of the products from set 4, and we opened one of the starter set cards in our booster pack. So you can check out, and you can comment in this video what card that was, and we'll know that you saw our other video.
I will say, if what I said was true, we will probably see either like a Darth Vader or like a Shadowcaster potentially as one of the other cards in the OP kits. If they're trying to put some legendaries that would upgrade the starter ones, because both of those would fit pretty well. Or Invincible could also be pretty good for the Boba Fett deck. So whatever they deem a good card for those decks. I guess also technically the Stolen AT Hauler, but that can go on both of them. So
Well, yeah, I'll have to see. I just thought, yeah, it was interesting that we got a legendary, but kind of great that people can get more cards just by playing at your local game store. So going out and playing in those weekly events get you those packs for free. Well,
my
whatever the cost is of the event.
my only concern with that is that I know that the OP packs currently in a secondary market kind of go for like $5 typically. So I'm just concerned for those who don't have a local game store to go to and want to, get some of these packs who might be having to buy them. These might be worth a touch more due to the fact that there's legendaries inside of them.
And if you're like Jrod and love the border on these cards, then they'll also be worth more to you.
Yep. Love the border. Although I will say that Han Solo art is the best art for Han Solo I've seen.
That
So
is true.
I will probably be actually going after the legendary Han Solo from the packs. So I'll be trying to get my hands on as many of those packs as possible.
We also got a couple other art news insofar as we got a picture from they were in France for some game conference, and we got a picture of some of the prestige cards, which are in the Carbonite boosters from FFG. We got some pictures from them from this event. Any of those stand out to you, or any kind of the arts for the prestige that you think are interesting, different, worthwhile to talk about?
I just like the fact that the Executor and the Annihilator are horizontal instead of vertical for their prestiges.
Mm-hmm.
I just think those are so cool because they're just, they're really big fat ships. They're going to look cool when you slap them down on the table. Now, you're never going to slap them down on the table because the cards are booty cheeks. It's cool that, that it exists. You know what I'm saying?
I would say that I think it's really cool how like you have Gold Leader, Home One, and I think Red Leader are all in the same picture. They were all like drawn together. So if you put them together, their scenes match up. Same thing
Yeah.
with Red 5, Victor Leader. So Victor Leader is chasing Red 5, so you have the Vader chasing Luke during the trench run.
Very cool.
Photo there, so that's super awesome. And you have the Ghost and Phantom, that same thing. I think that's it for the ones that match up together. But that's just super awesome that even like to think about that. So like adding more collectability to those kind of cards, like, oh, I got Vader's ship, but I don't have Luke's ship, so I can't do the whole picture. Like, there's gonna be people out there like, I happen to pull one, so now I need the other one, right? Like, there's gonna be people out there that want to do that. So,
And I will say these, so it's cool that they're coming from the movie, obviously where this is from. If you zoom in to Victor Leader, you can see Vader in there. And if you zoom into Red 5, you can see Luke in there with R2.
oh, you can.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's like so much detail that's in these art.
Very
So
cool.
really cool. I agree with actually Dudeness though. Yeah, the verticalness, very cool. And they did say that each set is going to be different. So this set, since its focus is vehicles, that's why we're getting all the unique vehicles. You can imagine in the next set, Legends of the Force, all the Force units
All
are going to
Force
be the
users, I know.
prestige cards. So that kind of interesting.
Since you mentioned the arts of the Victor Leader and Red 5, shout out to Steven Savala. I probably butchered your last name there, but that was the artist for it. So great job on that. We love to prep up our good artists that we get in this game. So
I think he
thanks.
said he actually worked with Lucasfilms. I remember them pointing that out. He worked, I think, in Lucasfilms, and he's the one that made this. So he has a lot of knowledge on Star Wars stuff, and you can tell by the way his art is.
Yeah, it's absolutely like couldn't ask for a better art for a card for these. So hopefully I pull some. I am getting 2 carbonate boxes, so hopefully I'll be able to pull some awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm. And we also got some of the art for the showcases. And it's interesting to me how I feel like there is a connection between these prestige cards and the showcases. They're not exactly similar, but they have some similar design elements that I really like. Are there any other showcases, though, that stand out to any of you guys that we have revealed so far that you wanted to highlight, either for positive or for not less positive?
The Boba Fett looks gorgeous. I'm just gonna say that. An artist is JB. Oh man, can we get some artists with some easier last names, man? Casa Cop. I probably ruined that one too. I apologize. My wife's here laughing at me because I butchered that so bad. But I mean, that's just a gorgeous piece of art. It's gonna make me want to build. If I pull that, build a Twin Suns deck with that guy because he's probably fine, and that art is just awesome. So there'll definitely be some collectors who want that Boba Fett showcase.
We've been talking about all the artists because last week we had that great artist name, Space Goose with 3 O's. That was.
I still feel like that's not even real, but
What about for you, Dudeness? Any of the arts here stand out for you?
yeah, Admiral Akbar. A dude is riding a little scooter, and it looks actually incredible. But on a real note, I kind of ignore showcases because I have never opened one. I probably will never open one. So
No,
Dudeness,
very, very fair.
if you open the Admiral Akbar showcase, since you got the sleeves in our draft from the creator kit, you are forced then to go to a PQ with Admiral Akbar as your leader with those sleeves, or at least a little Store Showdown. Okay.
That
Challenge
sounds like a trap.
accepted.
It sounds like a trap.
Oh, it's definitely a trap, but you got to do it because it's said on the podcast, so you can't let the fans down. They got to see the pictures of it, of you with the sleeves. Is there a mat too?
No,
Do we have to get this guy a mat too?
no.
All right. Well, you have to go there with Akbar and the sleeves and do your best to take it down with that, and or build a Twin Suns deck with that, and then put the deck in the sleeves. Although there's only 50 cards in that pack, huh? Of sleeves, right? For the Akbar ones.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, 60.
Awkward. So, oh yeah, 60. Yeah, just not enough for you to play Twin Suns. Yeah.
Usually there's like 61 or 62, but yeah.
So we did also, just talking on the series of mats, we did get some events. We did some pictures of, looks like the Jump to Lightspeed event exclusive mats. The No Glory Only Results was one of them, and the guy who I have no idea who that is, but the Rebel official who costs 2 with a bunch of ships in the background. We got those mats. We also got some pictures of some of the mats that we'll see from the regional. So if you are going to the regional in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you will see me there, as that is my home base. And it has the interestingly regional qualifier, kind of small, but then participant that's like huge and basically the same size as the executor. So it's a very beautiful mat, I think, except for the fact that that's just so big on that mat. We also got
An
some other
actual
mats.
participation trophy?
So if you come to Minneapolis and play, you will get that as a participant.
Do we know how they're giving up like the Ray, Flo, another 2, the 3PO one that we don't know what the card is, and then the R2 of the
We know what
BB-8?
we know what the 3PO art is. That's in the set.
Do we?
Yeah, it's in the set. It's a card.
That's how much that I've seen this set so much. Yeah. But like, do we know how they're divvying up those? Like, is it certain areas are gonna get different mats? So like, if you go to like one, you're gonna get like the BB-8 mat, and if you go to a different one, you're gonna get the Plo Koon.
So there's only one regional. Those are all. I think those are the ones that are in at the regional, and there's only one regional.
Like the prize wall. You're saying?
Yes, the prize wall.
Yeah, the prize wall.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, well, no, because
sorry, LDA lock is the card.
Oh, they have the thing at the top right, which means you have to play in the event to get them.
You don't have to play at the event. You just have to go to that event. So it's saying you can only get them at that event. You don't have to play in the event per se.
I know there's only one like regional in the United States or whatever, but there's other ones in different countries. So I was
There's
like, oh
one.
man,
There's one in France, I think it is. Is the other
gotcha.
one?
Because I was like, man, if there was 5 and like each one had a different one of these mats they were giving out, I'd be like, man, I'd feel really bad for someone who got the out the airlock one compared to like now there are 2 of them because that art's just so sick that like
Mm-hmm.
or even BB-8 is pretty nice too. It's just it'd be like really sad to get the out the airlock one.
Yeah, so there's for those that missed our previous episode where we talked about this, at the regionals, there'll be exclusive mats you can get there. You'll also get exclusive promos you can get there. And at the sectors, there's different mats and different promos you can get there. And then at Worlds, there's also different promos and different mats you can get. So if you like mats, there'll be mats available, there'll be cards available, and all the different options. And the final thing that I just wanted to mention that we did find out about is we are going to get another starter set product. This one is going to be an intro battle Hoth. So we found this out this weekend. We just got some brief pictures of. We know it's going to be Darth Vader versus Leia, and it'll probably be Leia with cunning. Leia will be a command leader with a cunning base, probably, and we have Darth Vader on the other side, which will either be a vigilance or an aggression card, and have the other one as his base. We know that because we saw examples of some of the cards on the side of the package. So anything that you guys are hoping for in this new starter set intro pack?
Just to like keep things simple, so that way people can buy this, pick it up, and play and learn the game. I think this is a kind of a cool idea. I'm just curious to see how it's different from like the starter decks. Like, what's different there? Like, I guess this is. I know they did this for Destiny, where they had like a 2-player starter. They called it. And I know in those for Destiny, they had specific cards that were only in that. So even seasoned players were kind of forced to buy them because they actually had some cards that were like actually competitively viable in them. So you had to buy the 2-player starters just to like get these cards to make sure you could like play competitively. I'm hoping that they don't do that in this case, and that like any cards you get in there, you can get in typical packs or whatever. So that way, there's no like forcing seasoned players having to buy a starter product.
It does look like they did get a picture of the side again on some of the cards, and we see a Falcon that we don't have yet, and a Leia Leader, which we don't have, this First Legion Trooper, which we don't have, and an E-Web Gunner. So there are going to be cards, but those cards, I think I heard maybe set 6 this will be released, so it is possible these cards will be in a future set. However, I probably think that's unlikely. I think it will be more exclusive cards for this product. I do hope that they are like this. In this one, the Falcon costs 7, so if the Falcon's decent but costs 7, it probably doesn't affect competitive too much. It's also interesting, like, will this be even in Premiere? If it's in this intro product, does it even touch into Premiere? Maybe it's just for extended format. So that'd be an interesting way, I think, to make it so you don't have to buy it. But then it's kind of tough because if you buy it and you can't go to an event and you say, oh, they can't play it, then that's also kind of bad too. So kind of interested to see how that's going to work out.
You'll have to just wait and see there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're excited. Jump to Lightspeed is coming out this week. Go to your local game store, support them, get to play these new cards the week before the set officially releases. They have, to my understanding, changed it where you can buy product on that day. So go out and get some cards. We look forward to seeing what you guys pull. And next week, we're going to gather and talk about how we did in our events. So thanks you guys so much. We'll see you next time on Outmaneuver.
Yep, cheers.
Later, everybody.